Hello, everyone, and welcome to Super Podcast Action Committee, episode 159. Andrew Eisen here, but I'm not alone, for with me is Zachary Knight. Hello, Zachary.
Hello, everybody. I'm back.
Where the hell were you?
Oh, I had a wedding to go to. So, my brother-in-law's wedding. So, yeah.
Fun.
Yeah, very fun.
Was there cake?
Yes, I didn't eat any. I don't eat as much cake as I used to. I'm more of the ice cream kind of guy. It's like you go to a birthday party and I'll eat more ice cream than I will cake. And
now, what about ice cream cake?
Ice cream cake? I could do ice cream cake.
Yeah, cake is okay. What I really don't like is frosting. And at my work, when they celebrate the month's birthday, everyone who had a birthday at that month, they buy a cake. And it's always a cake that's this much cake and about that much frosting. It's like so disgusting. I'm like, oh, no. See, I don't want to waste food by scraping off 8 inches of ice or a solid inch of frosting. But
yeah, see, I like the whipped stuff. The really soft, icing that you get on the, you go to the Walmart bakery and get a cake there. Mm-hmm. It's usually the whipped stuff, and that's pretty good because it's not like overpowering. You taste the cake more than you do the frosting. But then when you get into things like the buttercream frosting and the fondant and stuff, mm-hmm. I just can't deal with that.
Yeah, a little too rich. Yeah. So let's see. I did the solo show last week, and I was talking about Uncharted, which I did not like at all. In fact, I would go so far as to say it's incredible the game managed to get a sequel because it's terrible. And I only say it's terrible. To be fair, for a 2007 game, it has a lot going for it. It did a lot of both gameplay and technology-wise, did a lot of things that no one had really seen yet. So it certainly was a pioneer of its era in a lot of respects, and all due respect to where it pioneered. However, as I mentioned last week, it fails in 2 really major areas. One, the controls are terrible. Controlling Nathan never feels right, but sometimes he just does not cooperate.
I remember you mentioned that in the podcast because I managed to listen to it over Monday and Tuesday. But yeah, there was like this one scene where it's like you're trying to jump across these broken rafters inside a church, and it's like that took me forever to get through because I'll be like, okay, I'm looking straight at the platform I want to jump to, and I go to jump and he jumps over here.
Yeah.
Like, what? I was aiming that way and he jumps this way?
Nathan controls like you're physically pushing him, like shoving him, like he's like, like shove, which makes it really difficult to to line up a jump and run straight because you end up kind of going at odd angles or walking along a thin rafter or log.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Also, the combat is just absolutely the antithesis of fun.
Yeah, the combat was terrible, and another bit of annoyance that I had with the controls there was in combat. If you were standing next to 2 possible cover positions, he always picked the one you didn't want to go to. It's like there was this one area where I wanted, there was this inset doorway that opened up into a hallway. And the bad guys were coming down the hallway, and I wanted to take cover right next to the door. So here's the door. I wanted to be right here. Mm-hmm. But instead, I would constantly be going in the wall right over here, which opened me up to enemy fire.
Yeah. Now, again, this was 2007. The cover shooters have got a lot better with the press button to stick to cover. Most of them don't do that anymore. Like the recent Tomb Raider game I mentioned last week doesn't do that. If there are bad guys around, she'll just duck. and
Yeah.
duck behind something. In this game, you'll find a box and you'll hit the cover button, and sometimes instead of covering behind the box, you'll like crouch next to it, which leaves them completely open. Now, again, game the characters and story's a little pat, and archetypal, but it's pretty good, and the characters are a lot of fun. There's a lot to enjoy about it, but holy biscuits, is that game a slog to play?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, well, I was just going to say that, I think I left a comment on the YouTube comments, but I was just going to say that, when I played Uncharted, what I was expecting, not so much expecting because I read a lot of complaints and stuff prior to buying it, but what I was expecting to see more of was something along the lines of Beyond Good and Evil, where it was 80% exploration and puzzle solving with 20% mostly solid combat.
Yeah.
But instead it was mostly reversed, maybe like 40% puzzle and exploration, 60% crappy combat.
Oh, I'd say it's higher than that. I'd say 70% at least, if not as high as 80. There, you are constant. The game's a shooter, really. It's a shooter with exploration elements. Going in, I was thinking something more along the lines of Tomb Raider. Any of the Tomb Raider games, which are mostly exploration and puzzle games, where you occasionally are thrust into combat. But it's okay to have the 80% combat, 20% exploration, unless your combat sucks. Then it becomes a problem. But being a completionist, I went back in the game to pick out the dozen treasures that I missed my first time through the game, because I'm just that kind of guy.
Yeah, I think I've missed like 40 of them, and I'm like, no, I'm not going back.
I think there's only 40 in the game.
I think there's 60. I could have sworn there was like 60. I don't remember.
You're right. There's 60, because I think I ended up with 43 or something like that. Yeah. So I go to the first level, and I climb up this wall, and there's a ledge over here, and I lean, and I hit the jump button, and Nathan just lets go and drops to the ground. I'm like, I'm looking at the controller thinking, did I accidentally hit the wrong button? I mean, circle and X are right next to each other. Maybe I'm pretty sure I hit the jump button, but all right, climb, back up there, lean, and jump, and he lets go again. I'm like, okay, now I know I hit the right button. Climb back up there, do it a third time, and for a third time, I'm watching my thumb hit the button, and he drops again. And I'm like, I'm getting angry here. And I climb up one more time, and he actually jumps to the ledge. I go, great, fine. And I jump to the other one, and instead of doing his long jump, he just does a short skip and plummets to his death. So I tried it again, and I go up there, I jump to the platform, and I do a running leap, and he just does that little skip, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I turned off, I put the disc back in its case, and I closed the case angrily, and I put it on my shelf angrily. I said, screw this game, I am never playing it again. For some reason, I thought, I decided to start Uncharted 2. And I probably never would have had someone not bought me the Uncharted 1 and 2 pack. I already owned it. So I'm like,
it's a pretty good deal. $20 if you haven't already bought it. So.
Uncharted 2 is lauded as one of the great games. It's a game that a lot of people gave solid 10s to. And I figured, maybe they just nailed it with this one. So let's get, because there was a lot I liked about the game, but the game was kind of getting in the way of itself. Well, I played Uncharted 2, and I'm happy to report that it's very, very good. Most of the problems of the first game are ironed out. The controls are serviceable. They're not good. They're not great. They're fine. I would say they are finicky in places, but other than that, the control's pretty solid, and the combat is actually entertaining this time. I think the reason it is because you have a lot more variety in the environments you fight in. In the first game, almost every single, if not every single area that you fight in is just a big open courtyard with a bunch of chest-high walls littered in it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know a fight's coming because you'll be walking down a hallway and it'll open up into a big open courtyard with a bunch of chest-high walls, and you're like, oh, crap. Here we go. In Uncharted 2, there's a humongous variety of different arenas that you fight in. You're in the jungle in this little broken down village with a tower and a platform and a little hut over here and an overturned Jeep over here and water down here. So there's all kinds of places to run, and there's a turret up over there. There's another area where you're in Nepal, I think. You're in a busy marketplace where there's a big building with steps going up that's bombed out that people are flooding out of, and there's overturned cars over here that you can climb all over, and on and on and on. And sometimes you have the high ground, sometimes you have the low ground, and it makes it a hell of a lot more interesting and fun. And another thing another bone I would like to throw at Uncharted is the enemy AI is pretty decent. They do a lot of they often try to flush you out with grenades and flank you, and the AI is pretty good. Also, enemies die a lot. They react to bullets the way you think most people would react to bullets, unlike the first game where they need to react to being shot 3 times before they die for the most part. Even getting shot in the face, they're like, don't care. I haven't done my 3 reactions yet. Also, the story and the characters of Uncharted 2 and the set pieces, everything's a step up. It's
that's good.
It's
I haven't started playing it yet, so glad to hear it's a lot better.
To the point where I probably will pick up Uncharted 3, although I hear it's not as good. I'm interested in seeing where these characters go.
Yeah. At this point, it's $20 for the Game of the Year edition for Uncharted 3, so you get lots of DLC goodies. I don't have the Game of the Year edition, because when I bought Uncharted 3, the Game of the Year edition was still $40, and they had the regular edition for $20, and that's what I bought. But there wasn't anything interesting, at least listed on the back of the box, for Uncharted 3, so I aired the Game of the Year edition, so I didn't really care.
Yeah, Delirical says play Vanquish. It's on my to-do list. I like where the development team behind it. I was a fan of Piano 3, so Vanquish is something I'd like to play. Uncharted 2 isn't better than 1. It may be a bit better, but it gets boring quick. I will say that Uncharted 2 is a bit longer than the first one. The first one's about 8.5, 9 hours took me to beat it. This one took me almost 11 hours, so it's a little bit longer. Although I will admit, as good as Uncharted 2 was, I was about done 80% of the way through. I was like, okay, I'm ready for you to be over now. I got a little bored with it towards the end, but not too bad. Lacks Rest, does the new Tomb Raider have more combat than exploration? No, it's mostly exploration.
That's good.
I'd say 70% exploration, 30% combat, and the combat's actually pretty good. Also, the Uncharted 2 does a really nice job with actually having some puzzle rooms. It actually feels more like Tomb Raider. There's some really great puzzle room. If you've played either game, you know what I'm talking about. So those are great. Anyway, what else have I been? Well, I can't tell you what else I've been playing. So yeah, I'll tell you next week. I would so. I think I'm pretty sure the embargo is not going to still be in effect next week, but who knows?
Is the game coming out next week?
It will be out by the time we do a next podcast. I'll tell you that.
All right.
So, let's see. All right. So, you've been playing anything? I'm going to close the poll. You've been playing
I haven't played too much this week. I played a little bit of Eternal Sonata today. And just trying to get a little bit further in it. I really like it. It's a great game. It's just I don't have a whole lot of time to ever play anything. So it's like, let's see, I played a little bit of that today. I played a little bit of Beyond Good and Evil last week, because I didn't get to talk about that in the last podcast. I'm still in the slaughterhouse, so I still need to finish that area. And then really that's it. I guess a Minecraft I played. Started over in a new world and ended up in a little chain of islands is where I spawned, and so I have to travel over the oceans to get to any actual land. The island I started on is big enough to build a sizable structure, but not a lot to explore there. So I've got to travel a lot in order to do any real exploration. Kind of miss my old save, because that one was just really nice. Just a nice. I started in an area that had a lot of variety. There was mountains to the east. There was plains to the north, forests and mountains to the south, and then some hills and valleys to the west. Something like that. Yeah. But yeah. In my new world, I look out my door and all four directions, all I see is water. So,
nice.
Yeah. So very interesting. But yeah. So yeah, I haven't done anything too exciting this week, unfortunately.
Let's see. Yeah, I'm still gearing up for Extra Life. I'll be streaming stuff. I think I'll be doing a stream every Saturday before the podcast in October. I think that's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
So look forward to that. And
one of these years I'll have to participate.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
Just make sure you have a comfy chair. Do not try to sit in a wood chair for 24 hours straight.
Yeah,
Nothing good will come of that.
Plastic school chair that I use for my office chair right now. My real office chair is in storage. I just haven't pulled it out yet. And that one's nice and comfy.
Yeah, I actually have a video I want to do based on this chair and the lengths I went to get it. But I've been trying to do it for weeks, but the Huffington Post thing happened, and then I did the response video to that, and James has been out of town, so we've been covering the site for the week, and that's taken up all of the time I would be using to write, to work on my videos. So, whoopee. I mean, it's a funny story, but we'll see. Oh, and the mom reacts to her son masturbating video is over 230,000 views, which is by far my most viewed video. So, yay me, or yay mom. And according to my analytics, people are finding it over 90%. It's being found through YouTube searches. It's not like some popular site linked to it. So I don't know what people are searching for on YouTube where they're coming across this video, but
yeah.
All right.
Yeah. That'd be interesting to read. Search.
Unfortunately, I don't get a list of the search terms that are leading to my video. I can just see where the traffic is coming from, and over 90% is coming from YouTube searches. So,
yeah.
Who knows? All right. So the poll this week asks, how important is it to you that localized games are dubbed in your language? Now, I did a write-up of Sony's TGS press conference earlier this week. I was really only going to do the relevant news bits, the price drop, and things like that, but I had to watch the whole thing anyway, so I thought, what the hell, I'll just do a write-up on the whole thing. So I did. And one of the things that was announced was Yakuza 6, but also a remake of Yakuza 1, which came out on the PlayStation 2 here, dubbed. 1 and 2 were dubbed into English. The rest of them, 3, 4, and Dark Souls, Dead Souls, I think it's called, are
Dark Souls is a totally different game.
Yakuza. Yakuza Dead Souls, I think is what it's called. Zombies show up. Those games have come out in America, and they're Japanese language only. I played Yakuza 4 and fell in absolute love with it. So I'm going to consume all things Yakuza now. And it's difficult because Yakuza 1 and 2 are out of print, long out of print. And if you want them, they cost about $150 now. Yakuza 2, the first one you can get for like $70. The second one I think is like $150 if you can find it. However, there is a Yakuza 1 and 2 HD edition that came out for the PS3 and the Wii U, but not here. Which is a damn shame because it's like, man, just grab the subtitles, the English subtitle script from the PlayStation 2 releases and plug it in and give me. You don't have to dub it into English. You don't have to do any more work. Just bring it over so I can play it. And I'm excited for Yakuza 5 and Yakuza 0 and Yakuza 6 and the remake of 1. But we don't really know if we know we're getting Yakuza 5. Nearly 4 years after it came out in Japan, but we are getting it. I am perfectly fine. I don't need the game dubbed in English. I'm like, just give me English subtitles and I'm good. In fact, personally, especially for a game like Yakuza, which takes place in Japan, stars Japanese characters, and relies very heavily on specifically Japanese culture, it feels better in Japanese. It's actually just kind of weird in English. Now, fantasy games like Xenoblade Chronicles, actually it had both tracks in it, I think. So that's always nice. But that one's fine in English because it's a fantasy game. That no one in the game is specifically Japanese or American or anything else. They're just dudes and dudettes on Bionis. So who cares what language they're speaking? But when it's specifically Japanese characters in Japan doing Japanese stuff, for me, it just works better in Japanese. So that's where this poll came from. So how important is it to you that localized games are dubbed in your language? So 113 people voted, and 50%, 57 votes, said it's not important at all. I typically prefer hearing the original language. 33% said I'd prefer it, but I'm fine with the original language tracks. And 17%, 19 people voted it's very important. I probably won't play the game unless it's dubbed into my language. So, sub over dub. I'm glad we've had this chat.
Yeah. I think I picked I prefer hearing the original language, and to me that's just important. I think that's just the way it should be played, because I've seen a lot of bad lip syncing when things have been dubbed, watching various anime and playing games where it's just the lip syncing was done for the original language, and then they just dub over it, and the mouths just are totally off from what they're saying, and it's pretty darn terrible. And then there's also the difference in the voices, because they don't get the same voice actors, the original voice actors versus the dubbed voice actors. They get different ones. And so, if you've watched something or played something with the original voices, and then you watch or play the dubbed version, you just totally get thrown off because everybody sounds different, and it's like a whole new cast of characters repeating the same lines, and I just it gets weird. But in a game where you can't really see the lip syncing and stuff, like in a 2D low resolution game where they don't actually have lip syncing, dubbing's fine. But if they try to do lip syncing, yeah, it's got to be the original language, because that would drive me nuts if it wasn't. And I can read fast enough that I don't have to worry about losing track of things. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. You can probably see a lot of anime behind me. Yeah, I prefer original language. I prefer the original language for whatever. Big Perm was talking about weeaboos somewhere, I think in the poll article. No, I just, whatever the original language was, be it Japanese, German, French, Spanish, whatever,
Yeah.
I will, if I have the option, I'll watch it in its original language. Dubbing doesn't bother me as much for video games and animated, but it bothers me in movies because the mouths don't match. And I remember
Yeah.
being a little kid and watching a Godzilla movie and just not understanding why this guy opened his mouth and 8 syllables came out. He's like, "Henry, how are you?" I'm like, "What? Why? Something's wrong. Something's
Yeah.
off." But I didn't understand it because I was 5 or however old. But Lyrical says Shenmue is a good display of bad translation. I believe it was only in I believe it was only in English here, so I've only ever seen the English translation. It's interesting though, because I have watched, of all the foreign entertainment, Japanese is my favorite. So I've picked up the language a little bit over the years, to the point where sometimes I find myself arguing with the subtitles. I'll be watching a show and I go, "Wait, that's not what that says. You're taking some liberties here." But so it is interesting watching, just because so that can help too, listening to the original language and then seeing the translation and the subtitles. As you get more and more familiar with the language, subtitles become more of just kind of a crutch that you lean on rather than a wheelchair. I'm not sure about this analogy I'm trying here, but
Yeah.
in the 10, 15 years ago when I watched any Japanese film, I all I knew about Japan I learned from James Clavell's Shogun, and had no idea. So I knew a couple words, and that was about it. So I was completely dependent on the subtitles to tell me what the hell people were saying. Nowadays, if I flipped off the subtitles and it's modern Japanese, I can probably tell you the subject matter that they're discussing, if not the specifics. I can get a general sense of what someone's discussing, but I do need the subtitles for the specifics. It's interesting because I was walking past Noriko and Takako at work, and they were conversing with each other in Japanese, and it's kind of frustrating because I walk past them and I pick up bits and pieces of what I'm not trying to, but my ear will go, "Oh, I know that word. Oh, I know that phrase," and I get all excited because I understand something, and I'm like, "Oh, I shouldn't be eavesdropping. Oops." So.
Yeah. And Proto Man Dan here, he asks, why original voices can't be left in, where, if they're going to translate it to another language, why can't we keep it? And usually it's down to space. On modern consoles, where they're all using the Blu-ray discs, that might not be as big of an issue, but it still takes up space. An MP3, you think about the size of your MP3 collection, and then double it, for what it would be if it were a higher resolution audio, and that that kind of gives you an idea of how much space it would take. So on a 50 gig Blu-ray disc, you could see probably a good 2 or 3 gigs of that just being the audio, depending on how long the game is.
Yeah, so, it's normally space, and But not as big a deal these days because we have space. They're on Blu-rays for the most part. All our consoles have hard drives. So you'd think even if it didn't ship on the disc, they could say, "Hey, you know, download the original voice track."
See, that would
if you want
be a really cool DLC. You know,
yeah.
it's like, yeah, just download this, listen to it how it was meant to be played.
Protoman also asks, is it a legal issue or something? Surprisingly, sometimes it can be. For example, sometimes they may have to renegotiate an actor's contract
That's true.
if their performance is used outside of the original, let's say Japan. They may have to repay all the actors, depending on their contract, if their vocal performances are used in other territories, which sounds really weird. It's like, wait a minute, don't you just get paid for the performance, and then I now own the performance that I paid you to do, and I can use it in any game and sell it anywhere? Not always. It depends on what the contract says. If you want to use my performance outside of Japan, you're going to have to pay me more. That can happen. So sometimes it is actually a legal or cost issue. They can't use the original performances. One of my favorite examples of this is in episode 30-something of Beast Wars. Beast Wars is a follow-up of Transformers. It actually takes place in continuity. Ravage, who's a Decepticon from the original show, he's one of Soundwave's cassette tapes, the one that turns into a cat. He goes, "Decepticons forever!" And he transforms into a cassette tape, and he inserts himself in a cassette deck, and nothing. And I was reading, this was back in the days of message boards, because this was late 90s, and I was reading, I forget who it was, but one of the show creators, he was talking about what was supposed to happen. What was supposed to happen was the original Transformers theme song was supposed to start playing. But get this. Beast Wars Transformers could not get the rights to use the Transformers theme song. Hasbro owns the damn thing. It owns both. This was back in, I don't know, 96, 97, somewhere around there. I was gobsmacked. I'm like, how can you not get the rights to your own music? But that's sometimes how it works.
The nature of music licensing. Even if you own the music, you may not have the right to use the music, which is absolutely insane. Because with music, you have you have performance rights, you have the songwriters' rights, you have the recording rights, and then there's all kinds of licensing. It's different licensing if you're going to be playing in a commercial versus a movie versus a television show. Sorry, ran out of air there. So breathe, it's like
breathe.
Yes. So depending on how you want to do this, you're going to be paying like multiple people to do this, and if just one person decides they don't want to sign over or sign a license, you're screwed. That's why you see a lot of movies will forego the original recordings and hire a band to cover the song, because it's cheaper to cover the song than it is to get the rights for the original recording.
Why you'll see a lot of television collections on DVDs for some of the older shows have new music, because they couldn't get the rights to the music. Nowadays, when they're forward thinking enough to secure the rights for eventual DVD releases.
DVD releases, online releases, all that.
Exactly. So, all right, let us move on to a new topic, and the new topic is more Kickstarter shenanigans from Comcept, who's doing the Mighty No. 9 Kickstarter. You may remember Keiji Inafune left Capcom, started Comcept, and did a Kickstarter for Mighty No. 9, which is inspired by Mega Man. It was a very popular Kickstarter. It did very well. I think it did something like $4 million or something obscene like that 2 years ago. Concept has been bungling things. In the middle, within the last year, it started another Kickstarter before Mighty Number 9 was out for Red something, Red Ash, and
Yeah.
and an anime. And people are like, wait. You're going to finish Mighty Number 9 first? Are you sure you're not spreading yourself too thin? And maybe it wasn't, but people were having concerns. And Red Ash didn't really make any money, but then they got funding from someone else for it anyway. And people were like, well, wait, if you already had funding for it, why were you kickstarting it? And so it became a problem. Mighty Number 9 was supposed to come out September 15th, so earlier this week.
Yeah, which
in
is
early,
sad.
yeah, in early
I was going to
August.
buy myself a birthday present.
Yeah, in early August, it came out. It was rumored that the game was going to be delayed. A couple weeks later, Concept said, "Yeah, it's going to be delayed. We still have some bugs and online stuff to fix. We want the game to work, so we're pushing it to Q1 2016. However, on September 15th, we will have a demo for our backers available as an apology for delaying the game." And people were like, "Okay, that's cool." September 15th rolls around. No demo. No demo. And Concept didn't say anything. But in the middle of the day that the demo was supposed to come out, I did not. I think I found this through one of our readers who found it through Destructoid. Buried at the very bottom of a post on Concept's website, hawking some type of robot design contest. It says, "Oh, by the way, the demo's probably going to be delayed. It's supposed to come out today, and it's probably going to be delayed." It never came out that day, so it was delayed. 2 days later, Concept says, "By the way," actually makes a post saying, "We're going to delay the game for a decent reason." It said Kickstarter backers didn't want any time limits on the game, so we have to retool it, and we're going to go through Humble Bundle's distribution service, and it'll be DRM free, but it's going to take us some time to retool that, which is great, but they should have said this before September 15th.
Yeah, definitely.
Or at the very least on September 15th. Or at the very least in its own post on September 15th, not buried at the bottom of a completely different topic. Now, the point I'm making here is Concept, and I think we've said this before, everything may absolutely be completely above board with Concept, but, oh man, they're doing about everything wrong. They're making their I'm not even a backer, and they're making me nervous. What are your thoughts on this whole thing?
Yeah, they certainly do have a communications problem, and that's not helping them at all. But as for the so yes, they need to communicate better. They need to communicate early, communicate often, and just let people know what's happening. And hey, Beckers, okay, what's that about? Okay, sorry, I'm looking at their website and I see this Hey Beckers, and I'm like, is that supposed to say backers?
No, Beck is the name of the character in Mighty Number 9.
Okay.
So
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, but yeah, but as for the delay, I think I think if they're having to retool some things to to deal with the backers and stuff, that's fine. I don't know why they would put a time limit in a demo, though. That doesn't make any sense to me. A time limit in a demo makes sense if you're trying to get people to buy the full game after they've hit the time limit.
Mm-hmm.
But these are people who've already bought the game. So why are you sticking a time limit on their demo?
You wonder if the demo was originally supposed to be the full game just with a timer on it.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, well, we're going to have to chop this up into the first 2 levels, remove a timer, and maybe I don't know.
Yeah. And then just the whole idea of DRM. They initially had DRM in this, and that's part of why it's delayed. They're removing the DRM so they could work with Humble Bundle, because if you want to distribute your game through Humble Bundle, they prefer it to be DRM free. But yeah, so I'm like, why does a demo need DRM? And again, I guess if it's the full game and they're using the DRM to lock you out of the entire experience, I guess that kind of makes sense. But if it's just a demo, like the first couple of levels, DRM on a demo is just it makes no sense whatsoever. It's like charging for a demo. Why would you charge for a demo? So I don't know. This whole demo thing is really weird, and I think part of the problem is that the demo is meant to be distributed to just Kickstarter backers. It's not an open demo for everybody, and so I guess the concern is that other people might play the demo, and you don't want other people to play the demo.
Well, yeah, they didn't back. Protoman points out that one of the systems that the 3DS and the Wii U uses are a number of uses rather than getting a time limit. For example, I had the Bayonetta 2 demo way back when, and you get 30 plays. You can play it as much as you want during a single play, but you only get you can only boot up the demo 30 times.
Yeah,
which is so generous it's completely pointless. I mean, who's actually going to play the demo more than 30 times? I played it once. Well, twice, because I played it on the Extra Life stream last year, and then the stream screwed up, and so I played it again later. But typically you play a demo once. I mean, unless it's Bravely Default's demo took a decent chunk of time, but not 30 separate plays. I think Etrian Odyssey had a longer demo too.
Yeah, I've played demos more than once, and it really depends on the demo. If the demo's crap, yeah, that's out the window. If the demo's short and I beat it in the one playthrough, I'll probably not play it again. But if the demo is really good, and even if I completed the demo the first time through, I'll probably play it again just because I enjoyed it. I remember way back when back in college, when my wife and I were in our first year of marriage or so, we picked up a bunch of PlayStation 2 demo discs from GameStop or EB Games because they were free, and we took them home and we would play the demos, and I remember Firefighter FD49 or something like that. Some firefighter game, and I actually played that demo several times, even though it was just one level. Just because I thought it was a really cool concept, and I still mean to buy the game. I just never get around to actually buying it when I actually see it. But I hear the game overall is kind of crap, but I enjoyed playing it, and it's not every day you get to play a game as a firefighter. So, I think for that, it's probably worth it to own.
Yeah, the 30 uses thing might make sense for something like if you had a demo for Splatoon, because otherwise people are just going to play unless it's a single player demo. But if it's just allows you to connect, like it's the test fire, it allows you to connect and play online. Unless you're me, then it doesn't allow you to connect and play online.
Yeah, it's like a multiplayer game. Yeah, I could see doing that. But again, Towerfall, very successful Ouya game. That one just locked you into the first arena. You had all four of the characters. You could play 4 players. You could play as many times as you want, but you only had the one arena, and you didn't have any of the extra bows or anything like that, or the extra arrows and stuff. So it was great demo. People would play that for hours. And have fun with it, but yeah, a lot of reasons why you would do a time limit or a session limit.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying they shouldn't do that. It's just 30 seems like an amazingly. I mean, it's like
30
I said,
is
the first
a lot.
place. It's so generous that it's like, why not 100? Why not 1,000? I have to wonder: is there anybody any Wii U or 3DS owner who's actually hit up against that limit went, oh, I ran out of plays. Crap.
They've got to really like the demo and not have anything else to play.
Okay, so let us move on to another Kickstarter controversy. Well, it's not really a controversy, but so a little backstory on Shenmue III. YSNet, YesNet, YesNet. I have no idea how it's pronounced, but
I don't know.
They are doing a Shenmue 3. Yay! Maybe we'll actually get the end of this story at some point. Originally, back in the day, I heard it was something like supposed to be 12 or 13 chapters, like a huge long-running game. But that's really frustrating if you played the original Shenmue and you didn't know that you're not actually going to kick Lan Di's butt at the end of the game. You're not even coming close. It's like, really? Wait, it's over? No, you can't end here. What? Anyway, so Kickstarter for Shenmue 3, and Sony promoted it at its E3 press conference, and it was asking for $2 million, which it got the first day. Ended up getting, I think, $6 million, $6.3 million, something like that. And but Yu Suzuki, I think his name is. I'd have to look it up. Someone correct me, please. Actually, I probably have it up here somewhere. Yeah, Yu Suzuki. Amazing, I actually remembered his name. Okay, so he said, to make this is great. You know, I asked for $2 million, I got $6 million, but you know, it would be really great. $10 million. $10 million would allow us to make the greatest Shenmue 3 that has ever Shenmue 3'd. This is in addition to Sony and Shibuya Productions backing the project. So they're also getting support from 2 other places, and YesNet, or however you pronounce it, is just this week opened up the Slacker Backer program. So if you didn't donate the first time, or if you missed the opportunity, or you just want to throw more money at it, they'll let you. They're more than happy to take more of your money. So through PayPal, you can there are different reward tiers, and the back stretch goals, more stretch goals that go up to, I think, 11 million to make the game as great as it can be. And they promise that none of all of this money goes to development. Sony and Shibuya Productions do not see a red cent of it. This lasts till the end of the year. So I haven't heard anyone go, this is a little sketchy. But Zachary, what do you think?
Oh, I think this is probably something we're going to see a lot more often with Kickstarters and stuff going forward. I know there's been several games that I recall that have done this, where they do the Kickstarter, they make the money there, and then they set up a separate crowdfunding thing on their own site, because and the reason this was done a lot before was because prior to this, Kickstarter had a lot of issues with foreign backers, where they couldn't pay because Amazon payments didn't accept payments from that region, that country, and so they set up so the developers would set up a separate thing, so using PayPal, so that these people can actually back. But I think we're going to see this a lot more going forward, because it is a way to keep keep money flowing, because we've seen a lot of Kickstarters where it's like they'll raise the money they need on Kickstarter and then realize, oh crap, I needed double this in order to actually get all this stuff done, and so they end up failing or struggling to release because they run out of money. So we'll see a lot more of this going forward, and it's something as a game developer I could see myself doing. Just because it makes good business sense.
Sure, but when you're talking about independent game developers, that's one thing. But we're talking about a developer that is being backed by Sony. It just feels kind of odd that they're like, give us more money. I'm thinking, you're backed by Sony and another production company. I think you're good. Here's my deal. Here's what I'm going to put out on the table. Make a good game, and then I'll give you money.
Yeah, there is that. But again, this targets the pre-order crowd too.
Stop pre-ordering. Stop it.
Yeah, stop pre-ordering. Yeah, pre-ordering is bad. You shouldn't do it. But unless it's on Kickstarter, then definitely pre-order on Kickstarter. But
unless it's my game.
Yeah, unless it's my game, then pre-order it so I can have the money up front.
Yeah.
But this targets that pre-order crowd, and it also targets the people who maybe weren't so keen on backing it on Kickstarter, but have decided at some point that maybe I will back this. Maybe I want to actually back this game, and gives them a lot of options. I don't know how many of these rewards and stuff were originally on the Kickstarter or not. I'm looking through them, and there's some very interesting ones. For $8,000, you can get Rio. Is that how you pronounce the guy's name? You can get a recreation of his leather jacket. So there's only one of those though. So if you get it before everybody else, you can have the only jacket out there.
Laxter says he thought Sony was only doing marketing and publishing, not actually contributing to development expenses. We don't know.
They haven't really said how it's.
We do know that Sony is assisting specifically with marketing and publishing, but we don't know what else it may be funding. We are not privy to that information, and YesNet, or however it's pronounced, is not at liberty to say. And they've gone on record to talk about what Sony and what types of help Sony and Shibuya Productions will be providing, and marketing and publishing is part of it. But they're also clear that we can't really talk about all the ins and outs. So I would be super duper surprised if YesNet, or however it's pronounced, is not getting any development money from either Sony or Shibuya Productions. It would shock me if Sony's only handling marketing and distribution. That I would find that very surprising. But you never know.
Yeah, so just something that I'm noticing here. They have a their Kickstarter or their stretch goals here at the bottom, and I'm looking at them, and we've got the 5.6 million Kickstarter, and it's like new Kickstarter record video games category, and I think they hit that during the Kickstarter.
They did. Cool. Shenmue III is the highest.
It's the highest grossing video game. Yeah, and then down here they have 8.8 million, and it's a new Kickstarter record games category, and I'm looking at that, and I'm like, that doesn't really count as a Kickstarter record because you didn't make that money during that. That's the Una.
I think that was copied over from the Kickstarter page. I think.
Okay, but I'm looking at that, and I'm like, that doesn't count now. You're off of Kickstarter. Yeah, any money you make after this doesn't go towards any Kickstarter record.
Yeah, otherwise, Star Citizen, I think, holds the record for everything.
Yes.
Do I have the right game? Because that sucker's up in like 30 million.
Yeah, the one that everybody that is a little slightly controversial, because everybody's like, okay, you've made this how much money? Where's the game?
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Okay, next. Okay, so there was a study, and studies are always fun. I'll actually have a new study for you probably on Monday. I wanted James to edit it first because I could only look at the abstract because I'm not paying $35 to buy the study and read it. So I want to make sure my write-up was okay, and James is out of town, so you'll probably see that on Monday. But in the meantime, we have another study which was looking at tobacco use in video games and how well the ESRB is doing in labeling games that depict tobacco use. Their conclusion was, this is funny, parents should stop relying on the ratings to screen for tobacco use in buying video games for their kids. I have to wonder how many parents out there are actually doing that. How many parents are like, you know what, violence, gore, whatever, tobacco use. As long as there's no cigarettes in this game, I'm fine. I wonder if there's any parents who are like grabbing the box and they say, okay, Uncharted 2, blood, language, suggestive themes, violence. It doesn't say anything about tobacco, so it should be fine. It seems kind of odd. I mean, it's a special interest.
Does the first Uncharted have that?
Actually, I looked at the first Uncharted, and it does have tobacco use. Sully smokes.
Yeah, Sully smokes cigars in there, and I think a couple other guys.
In Uncharted 2. I don't know if he's carrying a cigar with him, so I don't know if he smokes in 2. So I really can't say. But here's the interesting thing: they decided to find out how well the ESRB is labeling these things. So they interviewed 65 gamers between the ages of 13 and 50 years old on what their favorite games are and whether or not the games contain smoking imagery. They then used this information. They looked at these games and they looked at their ratings and found that while only 8% of the games that the 65 people they were talking about had tobacco warnings, 42% actually had tobacco content. I don't want to be a jerk, but I'm kind of waving the BS flag on this.
Yeah.
Think about this. Gamers, I'm sure we're all gamers here. How many games can you think of? Not stuff you're just playing right now, but how many games can you actually think of that have tobacco content in them? It took me like all day before I went, oh, wait, Uncharted. Sully has a cigar. Metal Gear Solid usually has a cigarette in there. I'm sure Metal Gear Solid 5 does too. But I'm like looking at my games, I'm thinking, do I just play games with no cigarette or tobacco content in them?
Yeah, because there's Grand Theft Auto would have it in there.
I'm sure somewhere someone's got to be smoking.
Watchdog, I think I've seen. Maybe? I think I've seen that in some of the videos. But yeah, but I'm looking at all the games that I have, and I'm like, of all the games that I have, Uncharted is definitely one that I'm aware of. I'm trying to think if Valkyria Chronicles does or not.
I can't think of anyone who smokes in there.
Yeah, it just seems like it would be something in there because it takes place in a fictional World War I style world, and World War II, and cigarettes were in ration packs for the soldiers.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to.
But that's the thing is if I were one of the 65 people and you sat my butt down and said, okay, now what games are you playing? Oh, well, I'm playing this and this. Now, how many of them have tobacco content? None. I guess none.
The only other game I can think of is actually Final Fantasy VII. That one had several characters that smoked.
Damn. It amazes me that 42% of the games that these people named now, unless collectively they only named about 3 games, and one of them was Grand Theft Auto and it had cigarettes in it. They're like, oh, there's 42%. That just seems really, really weird to me that nearly half of the games of a random group of people, and we don't know how many games or what games.
And we don't. Yeah, that's something that I would love to see. I want to see the list of games, how many people out of the 65 listed those games, and how many people who listed the games said those games contained tobacco content. Because that is the data. That data needs to be seen in order to determine if this is BS or not.
Yeah.
Because that's how we verify things. We could look at this and say, okay, this game, they say whatever game they listed there, this is completely BS because I played this one. I know there's no tobacco in this. I just finished it. So these people who are saying there's tobacco content in this just are talking out their butts. Yeah.
I guess the 4 probably does. And even if it doesn't, I mean, you walk into the convenience store, I'm sure one of the texture mapped shelves has cigarettes along with toilet paper. And so, I mean, would that count? I mean, really? Not even a real
that
brand.
Would be tobacco imaging.
Yeah,
because the ESRB has 2 tobacco related ratings, and one of them is tobacco use. So that would be somebody's actually smoking or dipping or chewing, and then the other one is just depictions of tobacco. So that would be like a pipe on the wall, in somebody's study or something like that. Yeah.
I think one of the treasures in Uncharted 2 is a pipe. It's like an old Incan pipe. Does that? I guess that counts, but it's not listed. But you'll notice that Uncharted 2 does not have a content descriptor for tobacco. However, and I would assume that the whoever conducted this study knows this. The ESRB is very clear that the content descriptors are not descriptors are not a comprehensive list of all things in a game. It's not what it's there for. So just because it doesn't, we're not going to put use of tobacco on every single game. That's not what the system's about. It's not a tobacco warning system. I mean, if that's what you want it to be, then I'm sure it does fail at that because there's no notice on Uncharted 2. But that seems kind of weird to me. I don't know. This was just a report in the Sydney Herald. No, University Herald. And don't have.
But I've got a question because Ruth E. Malone, the author of this, says the ratings board needs to stop pretending that it's providing accurate ratings, and it should more thoroughly and consistently screen material for content and accurately report it.
Is that suggesting that any type of tobacco in a game should up the rating or something?
Yeah, because that's something that I was wondering. It's like, okay, what exactly do they want done? Do they just want it listed when it's in there? That's fine. That's a good suggestion. To make sure that gets listed. But if they want to affect the ratings, I think that's just total BS. It's like Star Wars Episode 2, The Clone Wars. Obi-Wan Kenobi goes to this bar or whatever, and there's the guy selling death sticks, and they look exactly like cigarettes. It's like, I don't want any death sticks. You want to go and rethink your life. But it's like, okay, would that be something that Ruth Malone here would find should have been listed on the ratings for Episode 2 of Star Wars? It should have listed depictions of tobacco, even though it's a fictional form of cigarettes.
I get the sense that they want the ESRB, like if they want a tobacco warning on every single game that has depictions of tobacco in it. I just searched the ESRB for substances, which is alcohol or tobacco, to see. Tales of Zestiria has a use of tobacco. It's rated teen. Nightmares from the Deep, rated teen. We've got Foul Play, which is E10 plus, teen, E10, teen, E10 plus, teen, E, and there's 2,630 of these. So I've got lots of pages to go. So it's interesting. So teen, E. Which one is it? Nekoburo Cat's Block for the PS Vita. Okay. Mild fantasy violence use of tobacco, rated E. So I think one of the, teen, E10, teen, there's an M-rated one. Rare Replay. Which Rare game has cigarettes in it? Huh.
Possibly Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Oh yeah. That's true. Conker's Bad Fur. Yeah, probably. E10. So yeah, well, what they might be going after is look at all these E and T rated games that have tobacco use in it. So I imagine some of the games that they're finding that have tobacco but isn't mentioned in the content descriptors are also E and T games, and maybe they think that they should have higher ratings because tobacco. Not sure.
And I can't agree with that at all. Because one, it depends on the actual the context of the tobacco use. I mentioned in the comments, it's like, okay, if somebody's just like smoking, a bad guy smoking a cigar, screw that. That shouldn't affect the ratings at all. But if the game is cigar cigar rolling and smoking simulator, yeah, I could see that being an M-rated game. But other than that, it's like, okay, somebody's smoking in the game, or somebody's dipping or chewing or whatever. It's like, unless that's a core theme of the game, I don't see why that should affect the rating of the game at all.
Yeah, context important. So read the rating summary.
Yeah.
All right. Last topic. Apple TV has an Apple TV remote,
Woohoo!
which, if I am looking at this sucker right, has 6 buttons on it and a touch slidey pad at the top.
And it has motion controls. So there's
it has motion. So it's got a. So it's a Wii remote with even less buttons and options. Yeah. Okay, fine. Apple apparently did an about face. I think who was it that had a Apple TV controller?
It was a Steel series.
Right. So they announced the Apple TV Ready controller, which is your standard controller, sticks and buttons and stuff. And Apple said, yeah, you can, games that require that controller like that are fine. But they seem to have double backed on that a week later and say, your game must support the Apple TV remote. Your game may not require the use of a controller. Which, man, if you thought Wii games were hamstrung by the remote and nunchuck, oh man, games that aren't specifically made for the Apple TV might have a hell of a problem with this sucker.
Yeah, I'm looking at this and it's like, okay, the touchpad is like, is pretty much like your typical iPhone screen, where it has, pinch and pinch and expand, swipe and touch and all that stuff. So it has a lot of input functionality, but there's not a lot of visual feedback on this. So it's like, okay, I'm swiping on my controller, but what is it doing on the screen? I have no idea. It's like you play on your phone, you swipe with your phone. You're playing Temple Run, you swipe to the right, your character is going to try to make a right turn. You swipe up, your character is going to jump. You have that visual feedback, but on a controller like this, it's like there's no feedback. And then you look at all the buttons, and all the buttons have existing functionality that you're probably not going to be able to change in your game. The menu button is always going to have to bring up the menu. I don't know what that second button is there supposed to be, but then you got the microphone button, the volume.
Maybe it's the power button.
Maybe, I don't know. And then you've got the up and down button. That one you might be able to program in your game, because I think that's supposed to be like, you hold down that's play pause. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, the up and down might, be able to control selection and volume and stuff like that.
Yeah, but even if you could unlock these 6 buttons for use, like if game developers had full control over all the buttons on this thing, I don't know how you'd play a modern game. I mean, because you might be able to use the slide pad to direct your character, but you wouldn't be able to do anything at the same time unless you were just kind of poking at it with your other hand. You'd have to hold it like this, I guess. Okay. So it's kind of like this thing. This is only this has more buttons. So the top half is a slidey pad, and so you're poking at the buttons down here to jump or shoot. Oh man, I just don't see that working at all.
Yeah, and I look at this and
I guess maybe you could turn it sideways and slide your thumb
possibly,
and
but
hit
you're still
a couple
going to be
buttons
holding
here.
it. Yeah, you're still going to be holding it really weird. Like this, really close. But I look at this and I compare it. We've got a Roku 3, and it has a game-ready controller with it, remote control with it, and it has a directional pad. It has 2 action buttons on the opposite end of the controller.
Yeah, it works kind of like an NES pad.
Yeah, like an NES pad or the Wii remote when you turn it sideways to play Mario, New Super Mario Brothers, and then it has all the other buttons in the middle, which you could probably use some of them in a game. But I'm looking at this controller. I'm looking at this as a game designer. I'm like, okay, what the crap could I do with this?
Well, you have to make a game specifically designed around that controller. I don't think a lot of games are going to easily port to that controller.
No. The article that I linked for Touch Arcade, they listed a couple of games that they said, there's no way you could play these games with that controller. So it's like these game developers are not going to bother bringing their games over to the Apple TV because there's nothing they could do with this controller. And since you can't require an actual gamepad, there's nothing they could do. And I look at this and I'm like, okay, I could play Temple Run with this because Temple Run, swipe up, swipe down, swipe left, swipe right, and then tilt. That could be played with this. An infinite runner, and that's really about it.
Well, maybe what developers will end up doing is just mapping everything to a random button and function. It's unplayable. It doesn't make any sense. But I mean, if you can manage to contort your thumbs in a way to get it to work, great. Otherwise, use a controller. No, it totally supports the remote. There's drive and jump, shoot. This shaking is pull up the menu.
Yeah, there we go.
We just mapped everything to every button in no particular good order. But
every possible motion with the touchpad and the gyroscope, we've mapped to some functionality in the game.
Yeah, it's like all the buttons are different toggles.
But it's like I read about the guy who beat Dark Souls using a Guitar Hero guitar.
Yeah.
Or the dance pad, the DDR dance pad. It's like
someone did it with the Donkey Konga bongos.
But it's like, I look at those, people who do that, and it's like, and yes, that is a challenge, but that's like, they're doing it because they want to, not because Apple's forcing them to. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know why Apple even designed this thing, because this is just the stupidest design ever. It's like I couldn't even think of how to use it as an actual remote, let alone
I guess I guess you're supposed to just use your thumb to swipey and select stuff on stuff's gonna show up on the screen. So I'm sure it'll work for point and click adventures and menu driven games, but
yeah, that's a possibility. The
RPGs,
hidden objects games. We'll see a lot of hidden objects and infinite runners on the Apple TV. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I play. We've got Angry Birds Star Wars for the PS3, and I can't even. I can't play the game with the gamepad with the PlayStation DualShock because it's it makes no sense to me how to play it with that. I could play it just fine on my iPhone though. No problems there because I know exactly what I'm doing. But yeah, with a controller, no. Yeah.
Matthew says Apple gives a rat's patooey about games. They just give it lip service.
Exactly. This is pretty much lip service at this point, unless they decide to do another 180 and say, "Oh, you can require a controller." Then there's really no hope of having a decent game selection on this thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that is it for our show for tonight.
All right.
Still over an hour, but that's all right. At least we're not over 2.
Yeah.
So let us plug our stuffs and get out of here. Andrew Eisen here. Eisen is the last name. And you may recognize that last name because Capcom is featuring it in Biohazard Umbrella Corps. There's a new game it announced at Tokyo Game Show. There's a item in the game. I'm not sure. It's either the name of a curb stomp move or it's the name of the steel clamp thingy on the person's boot that crushes zombie heads when you curb stomp them, and it's called the Zombie Eisen. I'm not kidding. Check my Twitter. I posted a picture of it. I'm like, yeah, the Zombie Eisen. Eisen means iron in German, so I'm guessing that's where it comes from.
Possibly, yeah.
That would be my guess. Anyway, put my name in YouTube and you'll find my YouTube channel. At Andrew Eisen is Twitter, and the Facebook page is Andrew Eisen YouTube. I also did a cameo in some other YouTubers' top 5 characters I want to see in Super Smash Brothers. He just contacted me, Kevin Alexson, I think his name is.
Something like that, yeah.
I'll have to, let me double check that real quick because I'm going to feel bad if I get that wrong.
And to be honest, yours was the only character that I could really get behind. It's like everybody else is just like, this is a cool character. It should be in Smash Brothers, even though it has 0 chance of being in Smash Brothers.
Well, I liked his idea of the Excite Biker.
Well, Excite Biker, yes. Excite Biker could be in there. What was his other ones? I forget which ones he actually listed. But
Banjo and Kazooie.
Banjo-Kazooie, that one might be because it was an N64 game, but it was developed by Rare, which is now Microsoft's property. So not so much. And then it was just like Jesus and
Jesus was one of them.
Yeah, and then Ryu was the other one.
Who's already in there.
Yeah, which he made a funny little gag about. But,
yeah, well, I think he said he wrote the script before that happened and just never changed it.
Yeah, decided it wasn't worth it to change the script.
Yeah, Kevin Alexson.
Yeah.
So,
and then I forget who his 5th one was. I forget.
Yeah, watch the video. It'll be a surprise. Yeah. But mine was best because it's mine. What's interesting is I asked him. I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll record something for you. How long do you want it?" He says, "About a minute." I said, "All right." So I record something that's about a minute. And then he had myself and 2 other guests guesting his video. One guy's submission was 5 minutes long.
Yeah, it was very dramaticized.
It was funny though. I thought it was a pretty funny idea.
He made some good arguments for why that particular character should be in Smash Brothers.
Spyro, I think.
Spyro, yeah. But there's just no chance whatsoever of Spyro being in there because Spyro's Activision, and Activision doesn't like to share.
Lexer's pointing out that Andrew actually means manly in Scottish. Yes, it does. So
manly iron, huh?
Yeah. My middle name's Bennett. I keep forgetting what blessed, I think, is what it means. So manly blessed iron or something like that. Anyway, so that's all my stuff. I am probably not. I have videos that are in the script stages, but they're half written, and I don't have a lot of time to work on them because I'm busy with the unmentionable project and stuff in game politics keeping me busy. So I don't know how much original, other than the podcast, how much original content I'll have on my YouTube channel. But I say dumb stuff on Twitter all the time, so feel free to follow me there. Zachary, plug away.
All right, you can follow me on Twitter at EZKnight, and you can follow my game development work on Twitter. It's DK_gaming, and the website's divineknightgaming.com. You can check out the Oklahoma game development scene at OK Game Devs on Twitter, or OK Game Devs on Twitter, and okgamedev.com. And you can also check out Rusty Outlook on Twitter and rustyoutlook.com for some not so serious stuff about the games industry. So check that stuff out.
I liked the last one you wrote, and I forget what it was.
The indie dev giving up game development to play the slots.
Go play the slots. Yeah, I thought that was great. Not only was it funny, it actually made a point. It had I have something I want to say, and I'm going to say it with humor. So kudos.
Yeah.
I really like that one. Anyway, thanks for watching Super Podcast Action Committee. We'll be back with you back at you next week with another show. In the meantime, you can send us email at superpackpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at superpackpodcast. Like us on Facebook. RSS feed in iTunes is not up yet. James was out of town, so he didn't do it. Sorry, hopefully this week. Although I think he's going out of town again, so we'll see. Also, audio versions of the show can be downloaded a couple days after we record this. So you'll find links at kangi.org. You'll find a link at gamepolitics.com later in the week and in the video description of this video. So that's it from us. Have a lovely week, y'all, and we'll see you next weekend. Take care.
All right. See ya. Bye.